Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war with Hamas will continue for months. But his remarks about what comes next are provoking fresh reaction this morning, including from Canada's Prime Minister. Netanyahu is again saying no to a future Palestinian state. That's a direct rejection of the two-state solution the U.S. is pushing with President Joe Biden.
That is a truth that I'm saying to our friends, the Americans, and have also blocked an attempt to force upon us a reality which will hurt the security of Israel. A Prime Minister in Israel must be able to say no, even to the closest of our friends, to say no when it's needed, and yes when it's possible.
Netanyahu says he's told the Biden administration he rejects any plan to establish a Palestinian state. Later, at a meeting of his war cabinet, Netanyahu repeated his pledge that the war in Gaza will continue until Hamas is totally defeated. Israeli ground forces are now fighting in Khan Yunis, which is the furthest push south yet. Another line from Netanyahu's remarks in that televised address last night is getting some attention. His government has been promising there would be no Israeli military occupation of Gaza after the war. But Netanyahu now says Israel, quote, needs security control of all territory west of the Jordan River. That would include both Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Abby Kugathasan has more on the response from both Washington and Prime Minister Trudeau.
Heather, a lot of reaction, but little shock in response to Benjamin Netanyahu's comments. Benjamin Netanyahu himself says that for 30 years, he has been focused on the existence of a Jewish state and not the establishment of a Palestinian one. And just last month, Netanyahu said that he was proud to have stopped the creation of a Palestinian state. As we know, Canada has a longstanding position that it supports and backs the two-state solution.
I was not surprised to hear Prime Minister Netanyahu share that. That has long been his position. He and I had just a few weeks ago an extensive conversation on exactly this topic and others. Canada's position is crystal clear. We believe the only way forward for the region, indeed the only way forward for a safe and secure Israel, is to have a Palestinian state that is also safe and secure with internationally recognized borders. We believe in a two-state solution.
This is also the position of Washington, as we know, and a U.S. State Department official making that clear as well. Let's have a listen to what Matthew Miller had to say.
We do believe that this conflict, as all conflicts do, will end at some point, and that there needs to be a political path forward for the establishment of a Palestinian state. That is the only way, not just to answer the legitimate hopes, dreams, aspirations of the Palestinian people, but it is also, and this is critical, the only way to provide lasting security for the Israeli people.
The government of Israel says it is focused entirely right now on winning this war. They're not looking ahead to the day after. There are also reports that the Netanyahu government has asked the Biden administration to refrain from publicly speaking about a two-state solution. So obviously, there's a very clear and large divide there. But as we know, for the Americans, this is not a deal breaker. As we've seen, there continues to be military support for the IDF, and the U.S. also utilizing its veto power at the UN Security Council, Heather, when Israel needs it.
Abby, if this has been a long-standing position of Israel's prime minister, why is Netanyahu saying it publicly now?
Benjamin Netanyahu is under immense pressure at home. He wasn't popular before October 7th, and he's not very popular right now. He's actually relying on the far-right members of his coalition government to prop him up. And those far-right members are calling on him to finish the job in Gaza. They want to see this IDF military operation continue in its current form until Hamas is eliminated and until all the Israeli hostages are released. But we also know that internationally, the IDF is being accused of indiscriminately bombing Palestinians in Gaza, that they are using dumb bombs, that they're starving Gazans by not allowing sufficient humanitarian aid into the enclave. Now, amid all of this pressure, Benjamin Netanyahu may also looking at two other elements. The first being that Joe Biden may not be in office come year's end, and that another American president may see things very differently. The second may have to do with the reports that we're hearing right now now that there's a Saudi-led Arab effort to end this war. That would include the release of all hostages and the normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Those elements would be considered carrots for Netanyahu, but they're also having a major demand, which we consider a stick. They are demanding that there's a creation of a Palestinian state, Heather.